Hey there and welcome to Critcast. I'm the Penguin, and I'm joined here with Ghost.
Hello.
And Ghost here has a little gripe about paladins, strange enough. What's this about?
Well, not so much paladins, but more lawful good paladins. And not even necessarily the class as such, but the way players play them. Oh no, I'm attacking players, something I said I'd never do, which... because I've always said you can't really play it wrong, but there's an issue with this, and it comes down to, I think, a couple of different issues. One of them is certainly peer pressure. If you're in a group that's multiple alignment, you're going to have different people wanting to do different things. Now, a lawful good paladin will not really like you doing certain things.
Okay, I understand that. Lawful good is generally very noble and heroic and, law-abiding. You can't really, just assassinate people,
exactly.
For example.
That's exactly my issue, right? We're talking about lawful good, not just paladins in general, because they've changed, as you pointed out earlier, they've made some changes with the way they do oaths and different alignments now.
Yeah, in D&D 5th Ed, paladins now have a bigger variety of paths that they can go down with the oath system. They can go from, your vanilla lawful good paladin to a more neutral, naturey one to a more, in a way, chaotic good, more dark paladin, more like anti-paladin way, and that's really cool, but you're just talking about lawful good paladins? Okay.
Because the thing is, there is a restriction with being lawful good, and a lot of players don't follow that restriction. So my gripe there is, I understand the frustration. Lawful good's an annoying alignment because it is so pure. But the problem is, it is still connected to your character. And if you don't play that alignment, then you're getting the benefits of the class without the confinement of the alignment.
Yeah, of being in your alignment and, potentially being an oathbreaker.
Right. Now, this is different for like a rogue. A rogue, he's going to be, he can be neutral. He doesn't have to be lawful good. So he's got a lot of different sort of alignments he can play with, and he can do different things and it not be a real problem. There's the confines that a rogue has is a lot more in like his hit dice, and, he's never going to be a straight up fighter, things like that. But a paladin gets a lot of benefits from the class, and taking lawful good for devoted, or like that sort of one, the sort of definitely the older style paladin, AD&D sort of one.
Yeah, Law of Devotion, or
Oath of Devotion, right?
Or something like that.
Taking that sort of style, the lawful good is part of your confinement to that. That's the offset partly to some of the stuff that you get. So if you don't play that, you're getting a benefit without,
the risk of being an oathbreaker.
Right.
So, you say you see players playing this? Like, how exactly do they go about that?
There's a lot of situations, I think, where lawful good characters would step in and do something. And I think that the peer pressure definitely kicks in. It really does. I don't think people do this deliberately. It's not like a bullying sort of thing. But we had a game not long ago, and even Big Kev, who I think is an excellent player, he pointed out at the end of it, because there was a thing where there was these orcs locked in these cages, and mind flayers were basically using them for food. And the party was kind of split. Some of us felt that we should just leave them to their fate, and some of them felt that we should rescue them even though they were orcs. And we took a vote. And at the end, we were sort of joking around, and Big Kev basically said, at the end of it, because of the style of this game, it was a Adventurers League game, and the way it was sort of set up and that he went with the vote, but really his paladin, who was lawful good, would have tried to have freed those slaves regardless of their race and regardless of the rest of the party.
Yeah, it would have been just, the just thing to do.
There's a fundamental character element to that makeup. The morality, the ethics of a lawful good paladin is as annoying as all hell for everybody else in the group. Like you said, they won't assassinate. You won't have. It's not even that they won't assassinate. They won't support a plan that would involve assassination. A lawful good paladin is going to be the pinnacle of nobility. He is Lancelot in all his fine glory before he slept with the queen and turned it, before his fall from grace. But when you first see Lancelot, he is the ultimate knight. He is the true knight. He stands tall in the shiny, his armor's the shiniest. His heart's the purest. All of that's meant to be what, in a way, I think Paladins were made on Lancelot, in a way.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
And I think that's the problem. So I think that there is that peer pressure that you're not wanting to always be
that guy
fighting everyone in your own, and I don't mean with like whipping out your sword and that, but you don't
having the conflict.
That's right. That's right. I mean, like you got to have a good group that can do that, right? Now, my elf, his background involved orcs slaying his group. He was the only one to live, so there would have been an actual area for roleplay between my elf going, no, look, these are orcs. We leave them. If they're getting their brains sucked out by mind flayers, you know what? They deserve it. That's cool. Let them die. And the paladin taking the exact opposite stance to that, going like, yes, they're orcs, but what you're suggesting that they suffer is too cruel. Even for what you went through, this is not the answer. It removes that roleplay element when people don't follow that lawful good sort of situation. But yeah, you're in this position though that whenever these situations are coming up, what are you going to do? Are you always going to be like when they say, let's go and steal from this guy? No, don't do that. Like, technically, a lawful good paladin, if he sees the thief steal from someone, like pickpocket them just on the street, he's probably going to take the money and give it back.
Oh yeah. Hit the guy over the head and like grab the coin purse.
So, I mean, there is this, sort of peer pressure where do you really want to be that
the shit disturber? Right. In a way, it's like, I understand that.
I'm not saying that paladin players are the worst because they don't give a crap. I think there's just elements at times when they're like, oh God, this is, even maybe a plan makes sense. And they go, you know what, looking at it, that's a good idea, but my paladin wouldn't really go along. But do I want to be the guy now who's going to bring this up? Especially if he's already done it. If there's been something else that he's done.
Yeah. Do I have to?
Right. Do I have to keep doing this? Is this what I'm going to do? Is every time they suggest a plan or a course of action, I'm going to be the one that either physically tries to stop them or, I mean, even a good group can start to go, Christ, Tony, will you stop this, mate? And I have seen those some players, I'm not saying as many, but there is definitely some that take the lawful good alignment to go along the, in AD&D and 3rd Ed, the paladin route or the devotion route and sort of ignore the lawful good completely. And I haven't seen that as much. I mean, I guess you could have clerics. There could be clerics that are lawful good. I mean, a lot of classes could be lawful good, but I think it's mainly the devoted ones that players sort of focused on when it came to lawful good. I don't remember lawful good fighters. I'm not saying that no one out there in the entire world of AD&D and any of these things have never taken a lawful good. I'm sure there is, and I'm sure that there's lawful good mages and that. I just haven't experienced them. Just clerics and paladins. But really, I think it's that when they don't play that alignment, there is a problem there. Especially when they're ignoring it completely. I understand, like with Big Kev, I understood his position. That's what he said. I would have done this, really. My character should have done this, but, the nature of the Adventures League game, and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So I understood his position. And he did actually, though, push as far as he could. Like, he didn't just go, yeah, fuck it, we're not going to do it. He did actually say, I think we should let them go. And there was a bit of discussion, not as much as probably should have happened, but there was a discussion. And then in one of the follow-on games, he did say, it did become comical because we were all outside this building and he was inside negotiating and we could hear, the loud voices. No one else knew we were outside except for him. And he says to the guy says, I will give you 200 gold pieces. And he's like, no, I will do this for the betterment of the town. And all that they heard from inside, this voice from outside, which was my elf, go, what the hell? And the guy was like, he does play the lawful good, like things like that, the betterment of the town. Yeah. No, I don't want your gold. No, I don't want your stores or, that's right. A place to lay my head is more than enough, and of course the rest of us were like, all right, we're negotiating without you. So, but see, that made an interesting thing. And that's what I think people keep saying that there's all this restriction by doing it, but it actually created an interesting situation because in that game, I had to spend some of the time working with the rogue where we were trying to not go against what he just agreed upon, but find ways to get money.
The loopholes.
Yeah, we really were. So it actually became part of the game where we were making different deals and stuff like that, which came about from him saying, no, we don't need any of the gold. And we actually had this in-game argument.
That source of internal, like, group conflict isn't always a bad thing.
No. It's when that becomes a bad thing when people take it personally.
Yeah, and it gets a bit too far.
And I just watched a video with Matt Mercer from Critical Role, and he was saying he loves characters messing with each other as long as it's never anything that causes any real lasting harm or anything that causes sort of that sort of real friction. Friction between two characters that is acted out, that's fine. That's perfectly cool. But anything that becomes personal, goes too far, feels mean-spirited between person to person, then that can destroy your group so quickly. But that conflict, it's not just role-playing conflict. I mean, was it annoying that we didn't get any gold initially? Well, yeah, of course, because, I mean, especially in 5th Ed, a healing potion is 50 gold pieces. And the Adventures League doesn't give you a whole bunch of gold. Sometimes they will offer you 50 gold pieces for 7 players. Not 50 even each. It'll be 50 for the group. So you're really hoping to try to get
something really nice.
Right, from the game somewhere. You know, the adventure, you're hoping you're going to be able to get something or... So that's a big thing when he says, no, I'm not going to take any of the money. We don't get enough as it is. To take none. So, yeah, it's a big deal that he did that. But at the same time, he wasn't doing it to annoy us. So I wasn't going to be annoyed.
Yeah.
He was playing his character. He was playing his alignment. He was following his morals, his ethics. But it did create that sort of thing where he did walk in later on and go like, you're looking sour. And it's like, we need to have a talk, especially about economics. And
you're not doing the negotiating anymore.
Exactly, right? So, but I mean, that was all in character. It was all between, and that's how it was good, right? I think that people look at that lawful good symbol sort of thing and go, oh my God, this is going to be so restrictive and so horrible.
And they just scoff at it.
It's horrible if that's what you, sort of make it to be. Yeah. Exactly. But I do think if you're going to take a lawful good character, regardless of class, although in my experience, as I say, it's really clerics and paladins I've seen, you do need to talk to your GM about the style of game. Because let's say it's a game where he's going to call it Shadows of the Underworld, and you go, I'm taking my lawful good paladin. And then in a real short period of time, you find out that this is about thieves guilds, assassins guilds, deception, skullduggery, operating in the shadows below town. Your lawful good paladin's probably going to be a pain in the ass as much to you as it is to the other players if that's the campaign, because a lot of that's probably going to be set up to be deceptive, which a lawful good paladin won't like to be. Probably thieving, a lot of dodgy stuff, maybe not assassination, but a lot of dodgy stuff that will go against his sort of outright feeling of nobility. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's good just to sort of, before taking one, just sort of go like, what sort of campaign are we sort of doing? Just so you know. If it's just a normal campaign, then that's fine, go with whatever. But if it's going to be something that's sort of going to center on sort of more skullduggery sort of stuff, then maybe the lawful good paladin isn't going to be the right choice. But yeah, I think that this is a massive problem with the way some people play them. I mean, I understand it. So when I say that paladin players are the worst, I don't actually always mean it to sound like an attack on the actual person. I understand why some of this is happening. And the other thing, if you're playing Adventurers League, which is what a lot of conventions and shops are, it might not even be your friends. You could turn up week to week and have a different group. At our store where we go, I think there's 38 people on the books and 21 come each week. So I've played with most of them now, but we've bounced around a lot. And that is a different dynamic, right? Like, I know how you play. I know I can dump shit on you in the game, and you're not gonna, as long as it's not mean-spirited or you really think I'm just being stupid, it's not that bad. And the same, right? We do stuff to Scuzzball with Tweak, and he just runs with it, and you get some good laughs out of that. But you don't know necessarily how Bob's gonna be, or Bill, or Tony, or Philip, or any of these other guys we've never played with or only played with once. you might think, yeah, they've got a good sense of humor, or, yeah, okay, I'm going to challenge his view. He says he wants to do something deceptive with his thief. I think that as my paladin that we should negotiate fairly and honestly. I'm going to challenge him. We don't quite know if he's going to be like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I'm going to role play this out with you and we'll go from there. Because the other thing is a paladin often is a leader. So a paladin could make that, like what Kev said, you could draw that line in the sand and say, I'm going to negotiate because that's what my morals and ethics believe in. He might not just say that to you like that sort of thing, but I'm just saying if that's sort of his mentality, right? So he does that. But to someone who doesn't know Kev, he might go, dude, you just invalidated everything I said, ignored me as a person and player, and did whatever the hell you wanted to do. Because that's how it could appear, you know what I mean? Even though that's not what he actually was doing. So if you don't have that rapport, like if it's your friends, you sort of know how we sort of are. And you can sort of go like, or if something comes up, you can sort of just go, wait, okay.
It's easier to know that they won't take it personally.
Right. Or you can just go, hang on, time out, Jim. I just want to just, quick question. Why are you doing that? And you say, well, this is what I'm on. And you go, okay, cool. All right. Okay. Back in.
Yeah.
And you role play it out. But someone else might not do that. They might say it's fine. You know, you say, okay, yeah, I'm fine. But really, they're not happy with what's just happened. So I think that, especially in that situation of not knowing everybody in that sort of Adventurers League environment, not knowing them well,
it makes it really hard to kind of to always kind of say, no, we can't do this, no, we can't do that. Being that source of tension.
Because you might be uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, totally.
You know, not even just, it goes beyond that, do I want to be this person?
It's like, do I want everyone to hate me? Or even if that's not the case, you don't want to be kind of like, will they? I could just see that not being fun and just letting things slide and not playing to your alignment.
Right. I mean, even at best, you can have paladins being that leader, and that means that they can make decisions. They might take charge naturally, and that can also, if that's sort of happening, you could have players feeling a little resentful. They might not say anything, but they might feel a little resentful, feeling that you're controlling the game or you're trying to follow the game in your footsteps rather than as a group, even though that might not be what that particular player is actually trying to do, but they just go, okay, if they've taken soldier as background, they've got leadership as a high skill, if they're proficiency in it, that might be what they're thinking in their head that they're going to do, but not like, they're not thinking they're actually controlling the party, but to people within the party, they might feel that, you know, if you go in and someone negotiates, or even like Big Kev, right? Like there could have been a situation where if someone said, we'll pay you 60 gold and he says, that's fine. And the thief or someone else is like, well, can we negotiate for more? And his character's like, no, 60's fine. This is a small town. They don't have lots of resources. He might just be doing that in character.
Yeah. As
part of just what it is. But if everyone else feels like they're just, that's where that stuff can come from, where you feel like someone's overriding your decisions, taking control of the game. You know what I mean? Even if that's not really what's happening, but you can get that vibe. And if you don't know them, then it becomes a much bigger situation. So I do understand why some of these things happen. So I'm not always saying the Paladin player is
the one at fault.
Yeah, I think they can be in a difficult situation for that class.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And of course, the first thing people say, well, don't take a Paladin. But if you like Lancelot, and that's sort of your shtick, that's what you want to do, then you're sort of killing your own enjoyment in a way by not taking that class, if that's who you really want to
play
be.
What you want to play.
Right. Because, I mean, if anyone who's watched Excalibur, which is really the pinnacle of all knight movies still, his armor was so polished. When you first see Lancelot,
it was blinding.
It was. The sun reflects off that stuff so much. And that was meant to be the reflection of his pure heart and his skill. And that's that whole chivalry thing. Like, cause when Arthur beats him, he beats him unfairly. And instantly he regrets it. And he's like, this knight fought us so bravely. And even Lancelot points it out. He's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? He's like, you're fighting a knight who's not your enemy for a piece of road you can easily go around. Which is, I think, basically what he says in the film. But that's that stubbornness of two basically really good characters who are knights and nobles and a level of stupidity that comes with that. And that moment of him was there in that massively shiny armor. It was just great. And if you've seen that film and
you want to play that and want to do that, then.
And that's the thing, right? That's where I think the problem comes, because you could say, okay, I'll tone him down, but before he falls in love with the queen and it gets, his fall from grace, he's really a lawful good paladin. Yeah. And so I think my two favorites, this is a tangent, people, I apologize, but my two favorite in that film was definitely Percy.
Yeah, Percy.
And Uriens.
Which one was Urien again?
Uriens was, for me, Uriens goes on this massive character arc, and that's why I love Uriens. At the start, he's very knightly, but very sort of macho-y, warlike in a way.
Oh, okay, I know which one you're talking about.
And when Arthur pulls the sword from the stone, Uriens is like he's a boy. My God, I'm not following him. He's not even of noble birth. There's no way. And then you got the ones who believe that Arthur is king. He pulled the sword from the stone. And you basically get the beginnings of the Civil War. And there's this bit, which is where I absolutely love. And this is, for me, where Excalibur becomes the true pinnacle of knightly movies. Because there's a bit where they're fighting, and Arthur doesn't have armor or anything like that. And they fall into the moat, him and Uriens. And it's not a terribly deep moat. But it's filled with water. And it's enough to stand, right? Waist deep, I think it was. But I think it was in the argument they were having, because they were fighting, but they were having the argument. And he basically says, "You are not of noble birth. You're not even a knight." And Arthur goes, "You know what? You're right."
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
You're right.
That
You're
was
dead
brilliant.
right. And he gives him Excalibur. He hands over Excalibur, and they have that moment where they're all yelling at him, "Kill him, Uriens! Kill him! You've got Excalibur! Take it, be king!" And he's holding it. You can see it going through him, and then he just this wave of passion comes over him, and he just goes, "In the name of St. George and St. Michael, I give you the right to bear arms."
That was such a good scene.
Because he's like, you are so brave. How can I cannot doubt you anymore. You are king. That moment is so knightly. And that's the stuff that I really, when I look at knights and fighters, unless you're playing a mercenary.
And paladins.
It's
that's kind of the
stuff.
Yeah, it's that stuff that you want to try and emulate, and those moments that you want to have happen in your RP.
Exactly. That's 100%. 100%. That's why you take those characters. That's why we play. Because if you have a moment like that, anyone who's seen Excalibur remembers some of these moments like that forever. I saw that movie as a kid, and I've always remembered those bits. I've seen it a fair few times, but it's those moments that kept bringing me back because it's so good. But you get those moments in your own RPs when you pull off some really great either kill stroke, but those fantastic moments when you RP something that you can all sit around, and when you're with your mates at a coffee shop and you're just talking RP, they're the moments when you go, well, actually, I've got a story about that. That's what's cool. And that's what taking these characters is meant to do. So it's a pity if you hamstring yourself because of how you think the party's going to be. But I do think it's a complex issue to really play a lawful good paladin. But I think that if you're going to take a lawful good paladin, I think you really need to consider where you want it to go, how you want it to be, and decide how you want him to fit within the party. And try to just look at the party. It's a bit hard if it's Adventurers League because you may have a different group every week. It could bounce between, and that could, be a bit of an issue for you, depending. But really just try to see the makeup and try to get to know some of the people. Because I think you should push your class. That's the point. If you're a lawful good paladin, you're a lawful good paladin, but you don't want to be annoying. You don't want people to hate playing with you. So there is that. You've got to find balance. It's really about balance.
It's really about balance.
But yeah, I think it's a really cool class. I think if you can do some research, both historical and from movies, I think look at like Knight's Tale. Actually, there's another one of my favorite moments in Knight's Tale was when the Black Prince is riding in the lists and he stops Heath Ledger in the middle and he's like, I'm spent. I'm hurt. I'm done. I will withdraw, but I've never been unhorsed. And Heath's character, when they pass, they just raise their lances and salute rather than unhorsing him, which he could have, which was a sign of nobility. And I think that it's those sort of moments, it's those little things that you can pull from movies, books. Look at historical stuff. There's a fantastic book out there. We have actually reviewed it on our channel called Chivalry. It's a fantastic scholar's book. Not light reading. It's quite heavy reading, but it looks at the whole code and knights and how they worked as a both military and political force and the nobles and all this sort of stuff. if you're really hooked on this class, I'd give something like that a read, and just so much in there you can pull to make your character a bit more interesting, a bit more deep. Just go whole hog, because if you're going to be slightly annoying but totally awesome. And I think you should talk to your GM if you can too. And again, that's another problem with Adventurers League, is you can also end up with different GMs week to week. And adventures aren't always coherent because of that. But if you can talk to a GM, especially if this is just a home group, your friends and that, talk to your GM about things you can actually do with your knight, things you want your paladin knight type character to achieve or to be involved with, and they might be able to incorporate some of that stuff into the game. And it might be a good way to allow the other players to understand why your character does some of the stuff that he does, because at the moment they just see LG on your character sheet and assume it's not a really good electronics maker of TVs, and instead is a pain in the ass. So if you could come up with things that you could use your knight for and show some of the reasons he does stuff and let that come through in your character, it can actually make it better for everyone, because they're seeing your character develop, but also why do you stop them trying to do certain things, or why do you do certain things the way you do it? If you incorporate that into the game and encourage your GM to try to bring some of that stuff out too, that can go a long way, really, to helping just make the whole thing go smoother. And people might not react to some of the decisions and choices quite so negatively, because it won't feel like you're just trying to take charge, or it won't just feel like you're trying to just follow this sort of idea from an alignment, but you're actually turning that alignment into real action.
Exactly. Because I remember you were speaking before about parts in like movies. The Princess Bride. The parts when the Dread Pirate Harry Roberts pulls up Antino Montoya and like helps him up on the cliff. It's like he's the guy that he's about to fight to the death, but no, he helps him up and all that. And then
Indigo gives him his sword.
Exactly. The moments that you can only really get by being lawful good and by playing up your alignment. Those moments that are just really what makes RP RP.
Yeah, that was the movie that made me fence. That scene when when Indigo takes out his sword and he gives it to him.
It's like, this is my father's sword. It's brilliant.
And Dread Pirate Roberts like looks at it and I've never seen its equal, and gives it back. I was like, when I first saw that film, I was working in an office supply. I'd not been long out of high school. I think I was about 16 or 17. And that just blew me away. I was already in an era of action films where you would shoot someone under the table like Han Solo with Greedo. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like every dirty trick existed, and that was cool. And here was this film that had two characters
the exact
do that.
Opposite.
It was
so good.
Honor, dignity, the whole thing. And I was role playing at the time as well. I was already into that whole sort of scene and that. So there was a lot you could take from Princess Bride.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of the crux of it too. Just have fun with it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically my idea on Lawful Good Paladins. Both the for and the against. To be or not to be, that is the question. It's good night from me, and it's good night from him. How you think the party's going to be. But I do think it's a complex issue to really play a Lawful Good Paladin.
Oh, definitely. But at the end of the day, too, it's... I don't know where I'm going with this, actually. How should we end it?
Not like that.
Yeah. That's going to be the ending.
Oh, what a piece of work is man.